Hello you guys, it's Grace, and today I'm going to be talking about my reading challenge for 2017. I completed 21 of the 26 reading goals. The ones I didn't complete, the first one was a book by someone who isn't a writer, and for this one I just had a hard time deciding what isn't a writer means, because in my opinion anyone who writes a book is a writer. The next one I couldn't find a book for is a book set in your hometown or region. No one wants to write a book about Wisconsin. The next one is a book translated from another language. This one I was planning on reading The Little Prince because I believe it was originally written in French, but I didn't get around to picking that one up, unfortunately, so next year, I guess. Then we have a book written by someone younger than you. Again, this one's kind of hard to find, and it's information that you definitely have to research when you're finding books. So I was trying to find authors who are younger than me, but since I am only 18, that was very difficult. Not a lot of people younger than 18 are out there publishing books. And then the last one I didn't do was a self-published book. This is something I probably could have easily looked up online, but I was having a difficult time finding one, so I just didn't get a chance to finish this one. Without further ado, we're going to jump into the challenges I did complete, and I'm going to try to go through these fairly quickly and not blab on about each one. So let's get started. Challenge number 1, a book you read in school. For this one, I read The Giver by Lois Lowry. I read this one in 5th grade for my English class, and I really enjoyed it, so I decided to pick it up and give it another try, and I enjoyed it again the second time. A book from your childhood. For this one, I read Gregor the Overlander by Suzanne Collins. I don't remember when the first time I read this book was, but I really enjoyed it, so I picked it up again, and the nostalgia was real. A book published over 100 years ago, and for this one I read Ethan Frome by Edith Wharton. This one I read in my AP Lit class last year. Challenge number 4 is a book published in the last year, and for this one I read Renegades by Marissa Meyer. This is a very recent release, and I really enjoyed it, so I highly recommend it if you want to pick it up. Let's read a nonfiction book, and for this one I read Grit, The Power of Passion and Perseverance by Angela Duckworth. My dad actually knows this lady and went to a leadership conference thing where he got to hear her speak, so he gave me this book to read and I gave it a try, and I thought it was really interesting and also fit nicely in my little challenge. I don't read a lot of nonfiction, but I must say I really enjoyed this one. A book written by a male author, which, looking through my entire reading list for the past year, I realized I don't read a lot of books by male authors, and that's crazy. I should really read more books by male authors, but for this one I have The Edge of Everything by Jeff Giles, kind of like a mix between contemporary and like supernatural fantasy stuff. It was really interesting. The book written by a female author, and for this one I chose The Sun and Her Flowers by Rupi Kaur. I chose this book because it is written by a female author about female problems. This is a book that became a film, and for this one I read The Martian by Andy Weir, and I also watched the movie for my botany class, so I got to compare the two of them, which I thought was super interesting, so I chose this one for that challenge. I have a book published in the 20th century, and for this one I have It by Stephen King. This was published in 1986, so like just barely in the 20th century. I wasn't reading anything like way back from the early 20th century. It was like the last 20 years of the 20th century. A book with someone's name in the title, and for this one I chose Juniper Lemon's Happiness Index by Julie Israel, and this one was really interesting. I actually was inspired by this book to make my own little happiness index, so for a while of 2017 I was putting index cards in a little box and each day writing some of the positives and negatives that happened that day and then rating my happiness on a daily basis, which I stopped doing after a while for kind of the same reasons she was talking about in the book of it not being a great idea. But yeah, if you're interested, check that one out. It was really good. It was kind of light and fluffy in some parts and then kind of dark and like you really have to think about it in other parts, so I thought it was really interesting. A book with a number in the title, and for this one I have The Princess Saves Herself in This One by Amanda Lovelace. There is a 1 there, self-explanatory. I have a book with a character with your first name, and for this one I read The Infinite Sea by Rick Yancey. This is the second book in the Fifth Wave trilogy, and there is a Grace in it. She's not a huge part of the story, but she is mentioned a few times, so I decided that can count. I have a book someone else recommended to you, and for this one I have Turtles All the Way Down by John Green. I was not planning on picking this book up until my roommate said we should read it together and then talk about it. So I got it and we read it at the same time, and I ended up really enjoying it. A book with over 500 pages. For this one I have A Court of Wings and Ruin by Sarah J. Maas. There is actually a little over 700 pages in this book, even though it seems really thin. A book you can finish in one day, and for this one I chose Milk and Honey by Rupi Kaur. I read this in like half an hour actually, and it was fantastic. I have a previously banned book, and for this one we have The Scarlet Letter by Nathaniel Hawthorne. This book has actually been banned in quite a few schools, and thankfully it wasn't banned in my school and isn't really banned in a lot of schools anymore, but I read it for my AP Lit class, and I can't say I really liked it, but it was definitely an interesting topic to read about. We have a book with a one-word title, and I have Caraval by Stephanie Garber. This was also a new release for 2017, and I really enjoyed it, and also the next book comes out pretty soon, I think, so I'm very excited for that. Read a book that will improve a specific area of your life, and for this one I chose 13 Reasons Why by Jay Asher. Say what you will about this book, there's a lot of controversy about whether it was a good or bad thing, but for me it really improved my ability to kind of look past the surface of people and realize that just because they look fine, it doesn't mean that their life is necessarily perfect, and maybe they do need some help. Since I've read this book, I've been trying to focus more on putting myself out there to help people, like saying, hey, like if you need someone to talk to, I'm always here. So I don't know, I guess it's kind of changed my way I think about people and how I try to help them versus just assuming that everybody's fine in the world. Next up we have a memoir or journal, and for this one I have Love Letters to the Dead by Ava DeLera, and this one not necessarily a memoir or journal. This book is written in a format where it's letters to famous dead people, mostly famous dead people. But anyway, it was very interesting, and I decided letters are close enough to being a journal, because she's kind of writing in a journal, but she's addressing her entries to dead people. So yeah, we're saying it counts. A book set someplace you'll be visiting this year, and for this one I read The Unbecoming of Mara Dyer by Michelle Hodkins. This one is set in Florida, and I visited Florida this March, so there's that. And then the last one, number 21, that I completed was Eleanor and Park by Rainbow Rowell, and this is for an award-winning book. It did win the Prince Honor Award, so I put this one in for that slot. Thank you so much for watching. Please like this video if you enjoyed it. Comment below if you did a reading challenge in 2017 and how you did, and subscribe to my channel so you never miss another video. I'll see you next time. Bye!